The air in the auditorium was thick with anticipation, a low murmur humming through the crowd of students, parents, and teachers. This was the final round of the National High School Debate Championship, the culmination of months of grueling practice and fierce competition. On one side of the stage sat the reigning champions, a polished team from a prestigious private academy. They exuded an aura of effortless confidence, their blazers crisp, their smiles practiced. The audience buzzed, their expectations clear. Then, the announcer's voice boomed through the speakers, introducing the challengers. A single figure walked onto the stage. His name was Jamal. He wasn't from a renowned academy. He came from a small public school on the other side of town, a school most people in this room had probably never heard of. As he took his place, a few scattered snickers rippled through the audience. He was alone. His school couldn't afford to send a full team, so he was competing solo. The contrast was stark. The champions whispered to each other, barely concealing their amusement. To them, this was a joke, a formality. Jamar stood at the podium, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. He could feel hundreds of pairs of eyes on him, most filled with skepticism, some with outright pity. He took a deep breath, clutching the edges of the lectern. He remembered his grandmother's words, spoken to him just that morning. "Let their doubt be your fuel, child. Your voice is your power. Make them listen." He looked out at the sea of faces, his gaze steady, and a quiet fire ignited within him. The topic was a complex one, resolved. Economic globalization has done more harm than good for developing nations. The champions went first, their arguments slick and well-rehearsed. They presented a barrage of statistics, quoted famous economists, and painted a rosy picture of interconnected markets and rising prosperity. Their delivery was flawless, their confidence unshakable. The audience nodded along, impressed. It seemed like an open and shut case. Then, it was Jamal's turn. He walked to the podium, no notes in hand. He didn't start with a statistic or a quote from a textbook. He started with a story. He spoke of a small farming village, not unlike the one his own family came from generations ago. He painted a vivid picture of how a massive multinational corporation moved in, promising jobs and progress, but ultimately decimated local agriculture, polluted the water, and left the community poorer than before. His voice wasn't loud or aggressive. It was calm, measured, but filled with a raw, undeniable passion. He didn't just recite facts. He wove them into a narrative that was deeply human and profoundly moving. He spoke of the people behind the numbers, the lives impacted by abstract economic policies decided in boardrooms thousands of miles away. He countered their broad-stroke arguments with specific, heart-wrenching examples, each one a powerful testament to the human cost of unchecked globalization. The snickering had long since died down. The audience was silent, captivated. The judges, who had been leaning back in their chairs, were now sitting forward, their pens flying across their notepads. Jamal wasn't just debating. He was bearing witness. He was giving a voice to the voiceless. He dismantled the champions' arguments, not by being louder, but by being more profound. He showed the cracks in their polished facade, exposing the hollow assumptions their entire case was built upon. In his rebuttal, he didn't attack his opponents. Instead, he challenged the very framework of the debate. "We talk about developing nations as if they are monolithic blocks on a map," he said, his voice ringing with clarity. "But they are not. They are collections of families, of dreams, of histories, and what we call good on a balance sheet can be devastating for a single mother trying to feed her children." The final bell rang, and a stunned silence filled the room. The champions looked flustered, their confident smiles replaced by expressions of disbelief. They had been prepared for a debate. They hadn't been prepared for a lesson in humanity. The audience, which had once dismissed him, now watched him with a newfound respect. They had come expecting a competition. They had witnessed a revelation. The judges deliberated for what felt like an eternity. The tension was palpable. The champions fidgeted, whispering nervously. Jamal stood perfectly still, his hands clasped behind his back, his expression unreadable. He had done what he came to do. He had made them listen. Finally, the head judge walked to the microphone, an envelope in his hand. He cleared his throat. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began. "This was one of the most compelling final rounds we have ever had the privilege of witnessing." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. The arguments from both sides were strong, but one speaker demonstrated a level of insight, empathy, and persuasive power that was truly extraordinary. He opened the envelope. The auditorium held its collective breath. After a unanimous decision, the judge's voice boomed. "The winner of this year's National High School Debate Championship is Jamal Washington." For a moment, there was silence. Then the room erupted. It wasn't just polite applause, it was a roar, a standing ovation that shook the very foundations of the building. Students, parents, and even some of the teachers who had doubted him were on their feet, their applause thundering. Jamal closed his eyes, a single tear tracing a path down his cheek. It wasn't a tear of sadness, but of overwhelming, triumphant joy. He had walked onto that stage as an underdog, laughed at, and dismissed. He was walking off a champion, not just of a debate, but of the power of a single, determined voice to change the hearts and minds of everyone who hears it. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe for more.